everyone. So, I wanted to come on here and talk some more about spirituality and spiritual awakenings. So recently, like I said in my previous videos, I talked about timelines and how important timelines are to your spiritual awakening and how a timeline can open up a new path for you and a new journey for you after you had your awakening. And so I wanted to discuss a little more about the changes that you have to make after experiencing being in a new timeline, and having a new found perspective on life and spirituality. And so if you weren't spiritual before you had a spiritual awakening, it could definitely be just to feel like a brand new world. And I just want to let everyone know out there that you're not alone when it comes to some of the things that you find that are different that you have to go through. Personally, I think it's important to discuss like the people that are around you and how when you have a spiritual awakening, people start to show their true colors. And usually when you go through stages of darkness before light, there are like lessons on the other end for you to experience and for you to receive. But during that time of when you're going through an awakening, it could definitely be hard because maybe wounds and traumas and past experiences come up to the surface, and it's forcing you to deal with those things. You're also starting to view your relationships from a new perspective and maybe feel like they are no longer healthy for you. And so, what I really want to encourage everyone is to start reaching out, um, and form new activities around new friendship circles and new groups of people to form new relationships. Because once you have a spiritual awakening, you are going to go through a period where people are not going to necessarily call you crazy. But if you try to explain some of your spiritual journey and your path, not everyone's going to jump on board, because guess what? Not everybody's meant to live a spiritual path. Not everyone experiences a spiritual awakening. And that's what I also want to bring to the light, is that not everyone has an awakening in this lifetime. And so you don't have to feel alone when it comes to that. But the relationships in your life are extremely vital, because you have to have some people, to confide in, or you have to kind of channel that energy to a creative source. I recently watched a YouTube video of an influencer who I would like to talk more about, because he really inspired me. And he talked a little bit about some of the darkness that he went through before being on his path, and how kind of like the divine forced him into an awakening and had like series of events that happened back to back. I have the same experience with that, as far as like uh certain things happening in my life to where I felt like it led me to having an awakening and I didn't even really know it. Personally, I felt like, one of the reasons why I named my channel The Perfect Escape, which I will get more into that too in another video, is because I feel like there are not a lot of places where you can get this information from, and this is a place where you can feel safe, and get this information. But when you are on the wrong path, sometimes you silently think to yourself before an event occurs that you know that you're not on the correct path, and you might not know how to get on the correct path. Like, you might not know how to get unstuck in your situation. And then that's when the divine interferes and puts you back on course. But it can be, like I said before, a serious events that feel like, everything's, out of your hands in a sense, right? Like, for an example, if you're doing recreational activity, as far as like, drugs, drinking, anything that forms an escape for you to escape your reality versus escape it into, your purpose, then something can happen to where you're no longer able to do those things because it is a distraction to you getting on path to find your purpose. So something like, I don't want to scare anyone out there, but I've seen it all. I've seen people get arrested. I've seen people go to psych wards. I've had some of those experiences myself where sometimes, the people around you aren't going to say, "Hey, stop. I don't think this is good for you. I think you're overworking. I think that you're indulging too much. I think that you're not getting to the foundation of your issues and problems." And that could also deal with, you possibly being around the people who, don't want to see you do better than them, or they themselves don't have certain goals or certain ambitions for their own personal life, and so they're not going to share that information even when they see you failing. Instead, in return, they're going to, when you do fall, they're going to judge you, and they're going to say, all these things that, while they saw you were doing those things, they could have spoke up then, but they didn't. And I just want to express that, when you go through these series of events, you usually go through them on your own. Like you walk a lonely road to an extent. Like you start to experience like kind of like disappearing, like not being a disappearing act, but you start to kind of separate yourself from the world in a sense. Like your world becomes, you know, um, different. Like you're no longer probably seen by family members or friends because you go through these events where you can't even explain to them like where you've been or what's been going on in your life. You have to kind of almost keep that information to yourself because, like I said, not everyone has a spiritual awakening, and not everyone's going to understand or believe you when you talk about your spirit guides, the divine, and the universe, and things like that. And so, this community is extremely supportive. You can find spiritual people online everywhere, but not to sidetrack. What I'm trying to say is relationships and the dynamic in your relationships with others can also be exposed. Whether you're codependent, whether you have been in toxic relationships that are one-sided, these type of things get exposed during your spiritual awakening, and it allows you to make and see what's really going on. Like people's true colors start to show, and it's no mistake. And sometimes the disappointment and the hurt can be so real. It's painful to maybe know that the people are around you maybe don't want the best for you, but those who do stick around, that those people really sincerely want to see you genuinely do good in life, and those people are the people that you are going to call your soul family, like your tribe. And that doesn't mean that they necessarily have to be family or blood, but while having a spiritual awakening and you having that experience, it is going to be important with how much information you share with people, and know that your purpose is greater than the people around you. Now you have an absolute story to tell the world, through your experience with encountering a spiritual awakening. And you start to get closer to God. You start to get closer to your soul's purpose. You start to get closer to spirit. And when you start to realize that you're divinely guided, and that sources that you can't visibly see are divinely guiding you, that's not an easy conversation to have with anyone who hasn't experienced anything like that. And I just want to express how relationships can sometimes play a role in a sense where they'll have you thinking and being insecure about what it is that you go through, maybe, or like make you second guess that what you experience is maybe just a hard time or just a short period of time, when actually you're being initiated into having an awakening to get you on path to your bigger purpose. And You have a very, very big, large story to tell if you have a spiritual awakening. That means that your purpose and the work that you do can absolutely help others, because what you've gone through in your life, the things that you've overcome and the struggles that you've gone through are probably not identical to other people's. And you start to feel different. You start to feel unique. And that's okay too, but when you are going through something like that, the support system that you have, getting therapy, speaking to a spiritual counselor, a life coach, stuff like that is extremely important, because then you have, the support to freely express yourself. But to have, rely and depend on your mom or your dad or your sister or someone like that, sometimes those people don't always completely understand what you're going through, because they didn't have they weren't chosen to have a spiritual awakening. You were chosen. You are chosen. When you have a spiritual awakening, you're chosen. You're being divinely guided, and you have spirit guides and spirit on your side, meaning that you are being raised by the universe to an extent. You are being special, getting special attention from higher sources that's leading you to have a greater, larger cause, right? And not everybody has that. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here and express that, sometimes the dynamic of relationships, they change, and you become disappointed and hurt when people start to criticize your experiences that you go through with having an awakening. And, you're not alone. Those people around you, to be quite honest with you, all of them aren't chosen to be able to have such a story to tell, to share with others. And so you just have to know that you're chosen in a sense, and it's nothing wrong with you. It's nothing wrong with you. You're actually being divinely guided to pay more attention to yourself and to let go of any distractions or things that take you off of your path, including things like drugs, toxic relationships, exposing people's true colors for what they are, instead of being confused or bamboozled into thinking that it's you, right? And so yeah, I just wanted to come on here and talk more about spiritual awakenings and the relationship aspect of it, because the relationship aspect of it is also very important, because you could feel so alone and so shocked sometimes with people exposing how they really truly feel about you after you tell them your experience with a spiritual awakening. They could be completely like just not supportive, and you could feel unique, and you could feel different, and you could feel almost ashamed of your experience. But no, don't feel that way. You have a greater story and bigger purpose to tell. And online, and like my channel is a place where you can vent about your spiritual awakening as much as you would like in the comments. So you guys, thank you so much for listening to my spiritual awakening video. I can't get enough of talking about it, because it's like a breakthrough. And once you experience it, it becomes so much, it makes so much more sense for when you get on the other side, which I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way too. And I completely understand. So yeah, you guys, it's your girl, The Perfect Escape. It was a pleasure with speaking to you, and I'm signing out. Mwah.